Hello everybody, this is Godzilla here, and today or tonight, depending on what time it is when you are watching this video, I'm going to be taking a look at my free high grade / Gashapon figures of the turtle kaiju, Gamera, the Guardian of the Universe, or the friend of all children for the Showa series. Now when it comes to Japanese monster franchises, I'm more of a Godzilla nerd, but I do also like his parallel rival, Gamera, who is a giant fire-breathing flying turtle from the dawn of time in the Showa period, and is a creation of the lost city of Atlantis according to the Heisei era. He is a character of Dai Studios, which has now gone under a different name, so I've heard. I don't really recall what they're known as now. I want to say Kawakawa Productions, but I could be wrong on that. My knowledge on them is limited, but if any of you know, just let me know in the comments. Anyway, the reason why I'm talking about Gamera today is simply because the trailer for the new show that will be on Netflix later this year, Gamera Rebirth, has just recently been posted, and to celebrate the long-awaited return of the flying turtle monster, yes he can fly for those who didn't know that, fun fact, as well as the comeback of Gauss and Jiger, of all characters, I thought that I would review these three Gamera figures that I have in my collection. Now a few years ago I did review some other Gamera Gashapons, but those reviews were unscripted, and they were just mostly me commenting on them, where this time the video will be scripted. So first up is the original Showa Gamera, which I would say is from his debut film, Gamera the Giant Monster, or Gamera the Invincible, as it's known in the US. However, he doesn't crawl around in the movie. Well, okay, he technically does, but not a lot. So this figure will most likely be based on Gamera vs Barugan, where he's on all fours throughout the majority of that picture, which would make more sense. But the Showa Gamera would often switch between biped and quadruped. Now that I think about it, similar to what Anguirus did in his debut film, Godzilla Raids Again. Now many years ago, when I got my first 4 Gamera kaiju figures, they were all of Showa variety. However, this was the only Showa Gamera figure that I could find, and I wanted a model of him standing upright, and so I bought the 90s high grade figure instead, as it was the closest to the original. If this figure was released nowadays, then it would come with changeable parts, so you would be able to display him as either a biped or a quadruped. What made me change my mind on getting this model is that 2 years ago I went through a Gamera phase, and I was looking up other Gamera figures from the HG range. I noticed this guy, and so I bought him. It's a really nice model, and you can tell that this is the Showa Gamera, but unfortunately I do have one criticism with the figure, and those would be the Japanese initials on the side of his tail. They're unnoticeable for the most part, and you won't be able to see them on camera, but when you do look at the figure up close, then you can obviously spot them out. I wouldn't mind if they put it underneath the tail, but the fact that they're on the side, that is a no-no. Anyway, that's my only gripe with the model. However, what I do like is the shell. In fact, I prefer this version of the shell over the others, because it's more pointy and unusual looking, where the shells of other incarnations of the Guardian were still pointy, but appeared more natural and like a combination between turtle and tortoise shells, whereas the Showa was its own design. Overall, I do love this figure, and especially the quadruped pose that he's in. Very ideal for a turtle kaiju, and there's really not a lot to say on this model, if I'm going to be truthful with you, other than it looks nice. Next up is the Heisei Gamera from Gamera the Guardian of the Universe, released in 1995, coincidentally the same year that Godzilla passed away in Godzilla vs Destroyer. Now during the 90s, Godzilla was redesigned to look more natural and animal-like, while Gamera, however, although still an upgrade from his original Showa counterpart, kinda looked animated. Well, at least in the eyes, and it wasn't until the third movie of the epic trilogy, Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris, where he appeared to look more threatening. Bandai have done the 95 Gamera, which I do own, but that figure is clearly a toy when compared to the new bad boy, which is more accurate to the on-screen suit. And this will be the Gamera that I'll be using for future episodes of Kaiju and Cryptids, and he'll have a personality change as well, no longer whiny and insecure as I portrayed him many years ago. This was a figure that I actually did consider on getting for Christmas 2021, but I was more focused on Godzilla figures, and so I saved Gamera for the following year. Unlike the Showa Gamera, who's in a crawling pose, 90s Gamera is bipedal and in a striking bow position, ready to take on the Gauss flock. He is a very dark shade of green, and the shell is army green. I want to say malachite green, but I'm not too certain whether or not it's the right type of green. When I look at the jaw, I feel like it should have articulation, but since this is a Gashapon figure, it doesn't, and thus Gashapon figures are not known to have movable joints. Well, some do, but many don't. Something that I will say about Gamera is that unlike most other kaiju who have 3 or 4 toe claws, he has 5, which I suspect will make him stand out from others. This figure does actually have a second variant, which is his flying form. However, I'm not really a fan of it, because it lacks the jet blasts and a flight stand, which I don't love to be honest. But I do love this figure and the quadrupedal Showa Gamera that I like the most. And finally, we have the end boss of the Dai monsters, Nightmare/Trauma Gamera from Gamera 3 Revenge of Iris. So this is the evil version of Gamera from a dream sequence where he destroys the home of the antagonist girl whose name escapes me, and was responsible for the death of her parents, who was still in the crumbling building at the time. So the movie has a child who hates Gamera rather than love him. Anyway, it later turned out that it was only an accident that had occurred when battling Hyper Gauss in Tokyo. At least I think it was Hyper Gauss, or it could have been regular Gauss. It's been a long time since I last saw the movie. Now this figure, despite it being a Gashapon, isn't from Bandai, but Akira, who also make high grade figures. But this one doesn't come with a diorama base, it's just a figure. As you can see, Trauma Gamera lacks colour, unlike his other 2 comrades that I covered earlier, and that's because the nightmare scenes were in black and white, so naturally the model itself would be painted in these grey tones. However, interestingly, the actual suit was painted in a dark colour, but I'm glad that the figure has a black and white colour scheme. Again, he's in a bow pose like his 95 counterpart, but unlike his comrade, his bow position is a lot more menacing, like he means business. His eyes are blank and soulless, giving him a nightmare feel. Trauma Gamera reminds me a lot of the GMK Godzilla, so it makes me wonder whether or not he was the inspiration for Godzilla's evil appearance in 2001. Revenge of Iris came out in 1999 and GMK was released a few years later. For a while, I did actually used to think that this was the only form of merchandise for Trauma Gamera in existence, but after doing some research and seeing that there's more figures of him, I stand corrected, and he's pretty awesome to look at. So now all we need is a Movie Monsters series figure of him to add into our collections. So final thoughts on the Gamera High Grade / Gashapon figures. Well, even though, like I said at the start, I'm more of a Godzilla person, I do like Gamera as well, and there are times when I do have a break from the King of the Monsters and give the giant flying, fire-breathing turtle some attention. I really do like these figures, and would recommend picking them up if you're a fan of the character. Oh, by the way, you may have noticed I placed Trauma Gamera in the middle of the other 2 for both start and finish of this video. Well, that's because he demanded that I place him there, otherwise if I didn't, then he would grow 6,000 times bigger and consume my soul while flattening my house with my family still inside it. Yeah, pretty messed up. Hence why he's taken center. It's all just to please him. I'm also really looking forward to be watching Gamera Rebirth when it's released onto Netflix later this year, especially since it will feature Jiger in either episode 1 or 2. This is a big deal because she is the first classic kaiju from the original Showa era that isn't Gauss to make a return to the series. So hopefully this means that we'll finally see the comeback of other classic monsters, such as Barugan, Griron, Zigra, or even that Cobra who never appeared in the proposed 1972 film Gashapon. I'm really interested to see what the show has in store for us, even if they just got new monsters after Jiger. What are your thoughts? Are you looking forward to the show? Let's have a discussion in the comments. This is Godzilla signing out. Take care, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.